Thank you for coming to the awards ceremony. I'm Steve Peters, ATHE President, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Chicago 25th Anniversary Conference. I would like to introduce the Vice Presidents for Conference for 2011, Josh Abrams and Gwendolyn Alker.
Hello everybody, welcome. We're very excited to see you materialize out of the ether. And as with any theater production, there's always that bit of doubt right before it happens, so we're very excited. Josh and I would like to thank the members of our committee. You'll recognize them because they have small ribbons of a sparkly nature on their lapel. If they could stand up, please, so you could publicly thank them for all of their hard work. And secondly, I wanted to thank Nancy Erickson and her staff. As always, they did a fantastic job. And just to say that we took some risks this year with the programming, and we really had to have both Nancy and her staff and our committee on board, and we want to thank them for taking those risks with us. We hope you enjoy the conference.
And now it's my pleasure to introduce the Vice President for Awards, Bob Shanky. Bob?
Well, I don't know if you heard it as you were coming in tonight or not because of all the noise you were making, but Frank Sinatra and Rosemary Clooney singing Chicago, that toddling town. Carl Sandburg described it as hog butcher of the world, tool maker, stacker of wheat, player with railroads and the nation's freight handler, stormy, husky, brawling, city of the big shoulders. But we can call Chicago the host of our Silver Anniversary Conference and our 2011 awards ceremony. Mark Cosden will introduce our first 6 recipients.
Good evening. Supported by the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival, the Association for Theater and Higher Education, and Dramatic Publishing Company, the David Mark Cohen Award is presented in an effort to promote the writing and production of new plays while honoring and perpetuating the memory of David Mark Cohen, Professor of Playwriting at the University of Texas, Austin. This year, the alternate winner is Bob Bartlett for his play, Whales. Bob, would you please stand for a moment and allow us to recognize you? And I'm very pleased to announce that the winner of the 2011 David Mark Cohen Award for Playwriting is Evan Sanderson for his play, Illusion.
Hi everyone. My name is Evan Sanderson. Thank you guys so much for coming. This is an unbelievable honor to me. I just want to say real fast, this award is partially for me, but it's mostly for the people who helped me make this play, which is an enormous amount of people, enormous number of people, and it's an enormous amount of support. And really, it was crystallized around the idea of sharing the story and getting the story of what this play represents out to the world. It was through my university, BU, and through a huge number of people, from the ROTC to the directors to my first thesis production, my colleagues there. So I just want to say thank you to everyone. They may not be here, and thank you to you all for supporting theater. Thank you.
The Jane Chambers Playwriting Award is administered by the Women in Theater program and recognizes plays and performance texts created by women that present a feminist perspective and contain significant opportunities for female performers. This annual award is given in memory of lesbian playwright Jane Chambers, who through her plays A Late Snow, Late Summer at Bluefish Cove, My Blue Heaven, and The Quintessential Image became a major feminist voice in American theater. The winner of the 2011 Jane Chambers Playwriting Award is Natalie Marlena Goodnow for her play, Mud Offerings.
Wow, thank you guys for being here. This is really exciting. This is really thrilling that my little play, because it really is a little play. It's a short, one-act solo play. It's being recognized this way. And I'll tell you a little bit about what it's about in case you're curious, in case you want to come see it tomorrow, because that would be really fun, I think. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to see, but I hope some of y'all will be able to make it. A lot of amazing things to see. But in this play, my character talks a lot of smack to the Virgen de Guadalupe, also known as Our Lady of Guadalupe. She's the Mexican Virgin Mary. You've probably seen her with the rays. So we're in an argument, and I talk a lot of smack, and then I also offer up a lot of interpretations of the story of La Malinche, and I guess the quickest way to explain that is she's like a Mexican Eve, like kind of like the ultimate traitor, the ultimate whore, and I'll certainly put that in quotation marks. And I don't want to give away the ending, but the Virgen and I certainly try and kiss and make up, but you'll have to come and see if it works or not. And I want to talk like a tiny, super quickly about at least a little something that inspired me to write this, because maybe it would be inspiring to you too. I guess one of the really important kernels of this for me was that I really was mad at the Virgen. Like, she had become a really important spiritual figure for me after traveling and studying abroad to Peru and learning about different spiritual and religious traditions and that were really tied to the earth, and it made me really curious about what that was like and what were similar or parallel things in the place where I was from and the spiritual traditions that I knew. So I invested all this energy and love and attention to the Virgen, and then I found myself really mad at her. So I started writing her letters, and they weren't even about the thing that I was initially mad about, but it just kind of went on and on. And what about this? And what about that? And what about colonization? And what about, you know, you're divine, you could have stopped that, like, what are you doing? And then eventually, and I didn't know that I was writing a play at that point, but eventually it did turn into a play. And it actually turned out to be pretty funny. It wasn't funny to me at the time, I was just really mad. But it's funny how our traumas are funny sometimes. And I guess the other thing that I think might be inspiring to hear about I guess what inspired me to write more generally. I was really into doing ensemble-based work, and I would go on and on about how important it was for the people I was working with to tell their stories and get their stories out there. And it doesn't matter, you don't consider yourself a writer, you should do it. But I wasn't telling my stories. And I don't think I ever would have without having done an internship with a program called Girl Action, where these girls ages 13 through 16 were guided in writing solo autobiographical performance. And I thought, well gosh, if they can do it, I guess I can do it. And more to the point, I've been doing all these writing exercises along with these girls, and I have all these scribblings in my journal, and oh my gosh, it looks like I'm writing a play too. And then it kind of dawned on me that I was right about their age when I stopped writing. Because all through my childhood, you know, like so many of us, were writing and creating and playing make-believe, and it's no big deal, but somewhere around that age, sometimes we lose it. So I hope that's inspiring. It was inspiring to me, so I hope I'll offer that up and hope that it's useful to you too. Thank you so much for being here. This is really exciting.
ATHE's award for Outstanding Article in a Journal acknowledges scholarship marked by methodological sophistication, complex and critical engagement with dramatic texts and performances, focused inquiries, and possible directions for future scholarship in a particular area. Honorable mention goes to Anastasia Keotos for her essay, Sooner Speaking Than Silent, Sooner Silent Than Mute, Soviet Deaf Theater and Pantomime After Stalin, which appeared in Theater Survey in May 2010. Anastasia, if you're here, would you please stand and allow us to recognize you? Thank you for editing. And our winners this year of the Outstanding Article are Jason Staniak and Benjamin Pickett, who are the co-authors and winners of the 2011 Article Award for Outstanding Essay. It's Deadness, Technologies of the Intermundane, published in the spring 2010 issue of TDR, the Drama Review.
You can count on the two academics to do nothing off the cuff. Thank you very much to the association for inviting us here. And thank you also to the awards committee for this wonderful honor. Your generous recognition of the work of two music scholars reveals something very important about not only the status of interdisciplinary exchange in the humanities, but also the Catholicity of ATHE itself. We find it hard to imagine a society in our discipline issuing a similar invitation to someone outside of music studies. So this connection to theater has been quite an inspiration. Jason and I met as PhD students in the Interdisciplinary Critical Studies Experimental Practices program at UC San Diego. We'd like to think that this innovative environment, where boundaries between scholarship, performance, and criticism simply did not exist, was crucial in cultivating a productive sense of risk and improvisation, two qualities recognized and promoted by TDR, the journal that provided the perfect forum for our own risky collaboration.
One might argue that the very ethos of scholarly work in the humanities veers away from collaboration, a predisposition expressed with clarity, utter clarity, in many tenure and promotion committees and decisions. There's a little jive. Given this, we're simply blown away by ATHE's willingness to honor a jointly written article. Ben and I are both deep proponents of collaborative work. Our entire 15,000-word essay was written together, either in person with our computers, back-to-back in New York City cafes, or in real time over Skype, a vital piece of software that allowed us to work together at a distance. Special thanks are also due to two other non-human collaborators, Google Docs and Google Wave, the latter of which is now dead, but like Michael Jackson, still doing its thing. Intermundane collaborations are exchanges between worlds, and we wanted to give our heartfelt thanks for inviting us into yours. Thanks.
ATHE's Award for Outstanding Book is given on the basis of the study's potential to interrupt, change, and/or challenge theater practice and pedagogy, often emphasizing the interconnectedness of pedagogy and practice. This year we have an honorable mention and a winner. The committee wishes to make honorable mention of Kate Davey for Lady Dix and Lesbian Brothers, staging the unimaginable at the Wow Cafe, published by the University of Michigan Press. Kate, would you please stand for a moment? And the winner of ATHE's outstanding book is Angela Powell for her book, No Safe Spaces, Recasting Race, Ethnicity, and Nationality in American Theater, also published by the University of Michigan Press.
It really is an honor to receive this award from colleagues in theater and drama. My own acting experience in front of an audience consists of one very non-traditionally cast production of Raisin in the Sun. I was Benita, and a 50-year-old white female French professor was Travis. So obviously this was an amateur production, although we like to feel it was in the best as well as the worst sense of the word. But it was motivated by that same desire to turn imaginary characters into living ones that's behind any production of a play. And I realized that even though the word doesn't appear in the index, it is added to the book, that No Safe Spaces is very much a book about imagination and imagining, and how it is now a very strong tradition in casting, opened up possibilities for racial and ethnic minority actors to become any of the characters they had once imagined themselves as, and also how it continues to stimulate the imagination of audiences in new ways. For helping to turn the book that I imagined into something real, I really want to thank, first of all the theater companies who care as much about their past seasons as their current ones, and there really aren't enough of them. And at University of Michigan Press, of course, Leanne Fields, for her early, and as it turned out, very sustained interest in the project, and also the editing and production departments for their commitment to the quality of the printed book. Thank you.
ATHE's Excellence in Editing Award honors both individual achievements in editing a single project and sustained achievement in editing over extended periods of time. For her many collections, anthologies, and work on PAJ, a journal of performance, Bonnie Maranka is this year's winner of the Excellence in Editing Award.
I'd like to thank ATHE for recognizing PAJ and my own work for this special award. It comes at actually a momentous time because I'm preparing the 100th issue of PAJ that will come out in January 2012. And also in the 35 years that I've been editing the journal, and running PAJ publications, we have now about 150 books. I'd like to also acknowledge the really great team at PAJ, several of the people who are here, Jennifer Parker Starbuck and Josh Abrams and Joe Sarmaturi, who are our assistant editors, and someone who's not here, Donatella Galella, who's the production manager. We've been working this summer on PAJ 100, which will be a special theme issue performance in New York, and there'll be a couple of essential themes in the journal, which has gathered together about 5 generations of people working in all phases of performance in the city, under the titles of belief, under the themes of belief, performance and science, writing and performance, and being contemporary. And there are also some other sections. I'd like to just say that as a publisher and a writer and editor all these years, that in the face of so much controversy and new technologies, we really remain committed to the book and also to the individual critical essay and independent critical thinking. So, And we've been fortunate enough to be able to do that as the only theater journal published outside of an institution or organization. So those of you who are readers of PAJ, of our books and our journals all these years, those of you who use our publications in your classes and in your own research, I'd like to thank you for your decades of support, and also to our new readers. Thank you.
ATHE's Award for Leadership in Community-Based Theater and Civic Engagement honors an individual or theater company that has worked in the field for a minimum of 10 years. This year's honoree is Doug Patterson of the University of Nebraska, Omaha.
Thank you. This award means a lot to me. I also know that it can be given to 10 people a year for the next 10 years. We wouldn't even begin to scratch the surface. I am also honored by the people that I share this platform with, and I congratulate them heartily for their achievements. I want to acknowledge my mentors, my wonderful mentors. I don't know if Jim Simons is here yet. I want to acknowledge him, Marvin Carlson for sure, Phil Desir, and wherever he is, who's the ball. My deep appreciation goes to my nominator, Michael Muffson, Palomar Community College, and those who wrote on my behalf. Thank you to the awards committee for their kind deliberations that turned out to be on my behalf. Thank you to ATHE itself. Thank you to all of you who comprise ATHE. In August of 1981 in St. Peter, Minnesota, the Cherry Creek Theater organized and produced a remarkable gathering of political, Black, Latino, feminist, insurgent, workers, reassembly of the open theater members, and even rural theater performance. I had formed the Dakota Theater Caravan in the summer of 1977 and 1978. We went full-time for 18 months, but dove for the foxholes when Reagan was elected in 1980. In a sense, this remarkable 1981 event, held exactly 30 years ago this week, called appropriately The Gathering in St. Peter, Minnesota, signaled a kind of end of 60s experimentalism and a launch of something different, something even vaguely like the Caravan. It was not community theater, it was theater that nested itself in specific communities. It was based in communities. During a research tour in spring 1988, I heard Tommy Bledsoe of Appleshop's Roadside Theater say many times the phrase, community-based, community-based, community-based theater. It made great, deep sense to me. It was at once a critique of theater and a celebration of a new emergence. In August of 1988, Mark Weinberg and I petitioned brand new ATHE to form TASK, the Theater and Social Change Forum Group, now over 20 years old. ATHE honors itself for having created space in this organization for a vigorous analysis of theater, theater that is for, of, with, and by whom, and even analysis of the very construction of Western theater itself. ATHE honored Augusto Boal several times, and thereby helped TASK to strengthen its exploration of what community-based truly meant. Boal, as you know, has often been an immeasurable inspiration for many of us in this community-based insurgency. This award for leadership in community-based theater and civic engagement acknowledges that there is a whole new world out there with countless voices waiting to be brought into public dialogue. Poor people, students, people in the margins, neighbors in neighborhoods, people of color and less color, GLBTQ people, people in prisons, endless international peoples and networks, workers, and yes, oppressed people the world over, needing and seeking foundational change in the world's power structures. Civically engaged, community-based, inviting critical thinking and lots of fun and laughter, this theater is only beginning to realize its volcanic vitality. It is an honor to have been selected and to continue to be a part of this still unfolding and wonderful story. And on Wisconsin.
The Outstanding Teacher Award honors a college-level faculty member whose superiority as a teacher of theater is recognized by students and colleagues, who has provided inspiration through instruction in theater to students and teachers of theater, who has promulgated and practiced high standards of teaching in theater, and who has created strong and effective interpersonal communication in studios, shops, rehearsal halls, and/or classrooms through advising, mentoring, and all aspects of the student-teacher relationship. Candidates must support multiculturalism and diversity in theater and/or education. The award this year goes to Jill Dolan of Princeton University.
Thank you all so much. I honestly can't thank you enough for this honor. It's so nice to look out here and know so many of you. It really feels like being with family. And in fact, before I go any further, I want to thank Yvette and Frank Reiner, who are here today as proxies for my parents who wanted so much to be here and couldn't be here. I want to thank Alice Wolf, who's here on behalf of the Wolf family, and I want to thank my Uncle Mel, who came from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, especially to be here for this honor. Thank you so much. I'm not a deeply religious person, but it strikes me that teaching is one of our most sacred professions. We're entrusted with minds and lives and bodies. People turn their faces to ours expectantly. That trust demands reciprocity. Being a teacher, as a result, is also one of the most vulnerable professions, because if you're really going to reciprocate, you have to bear a bit of your own soul. I'm so grateful for all the students who've helped my soul grow over these last 25 years. One of the most meaningful aspects of teaching for me, like performance itself, is how fleeting it is. On the best days, I leave a classroom on a high I rarely find elsewhere, already wishing I could recapture the heady nuances of the discoveries we just made in our fragile, hopeful, temporary learning community. But teaching is about speech, which disappears just as it's uttered. Even those of us who take notes during class, myself of course included, in our efforts to archive and remember, can't do justice to the timbre and tone, to the burning underpinnings of how we speak in our most urgent classroom conversations. That we can't recreate them makes them that much more precious and makes me that much more eager to try. It's been an unexpected pleasure, this career, but teaching is not without precedent in my family. My Uncle Mel taught me the word for the day, every day when I was a kid. I think he's now astonished at how many I've learned since then. My mother spent her career as a kindergarten teacher. I'd visit her classroom and absorb the model of her patience and magnanimity, her hope that she could in some way open her kids' futures as she taught them how to tie their shoes. And my father taught me, among other things, how to play tennis. I learned from him a generous, happy sportsmanship that I like to think is part of my own teaching. And Stacy Wolf, my partner, entered my life as my student, but has for 22 years also been my teacher. Now, when we teach courses together, I'm so grateful for how much I continue to learn from her about teaching, about theater, and about the pleasure of so intensely living your life. My classrooms structure my kinship networks. Let me thank my former student and my good friend, Ramon Rivera-Cervera, who I understand organized my nomination for this award. as well as all the graduate and undergraduate students I've taught, and all the colleagues with whom I've worked at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, the CUNY Graduate Center, the University of Texas at Austin, and now at Princeton. You all mean the world to me. Let me end by saying, I wish more people really understood what happens in our classrooms. I rue how the right disparages progressive pedagogy like ours, especially when it's grounded in art forms they also seem to despise. If they could only appreciate how passionately we feel and how rigorously we think about the theater and performance we see and do and study. If they could only realize how cataclysmic are our new understandings and how transformative our experiences in our prosaic, everyday classrooms and on the magical classroom of the stage. In our teaching and our learning, we shape the possibilities of our culture. We theater people work in the medium of love. We rely on our hearts as well as our minds and our souls. To also love what you do and to be honored for it seems a great gift indeed. Thank you so, so much.
ATHE has 2 Career Achievement Awards, one to an individual whose career has primarily been in professional theater, and one to an individual whose career has primarily been in theater for higher education. They each indicate a career of distinguished service to the field. Frequently, recipients have distinguished careers which overlap both areas. Awardees must be recognized and known for superlative contributions to the field. They must be authentic role models to peers and students. They must be original thinkers and or creators whose work has established new frames of reference. They must be instrumental in nurturing the careers of others and be effective advocates for the field. Candidates should be known for supporting multiculturalism and diversity in theater and or education. In addition to all of that, the recipients of the Educational Theater Award must be recognized for their scholarly and or creative contributions, work with professional organizations, and service to students. This year's recipient of the Career Achievement in Educational Theater goes to William Esper.
This warms my heart. It's a lovely thing. And I thank the Christine Holtvedt who worked on my behalf and the members of the committee and all of you for this wonderful award. I don't know, career achievement makes me a little nervous, however. I mean, is that like the gold watch they give you and when it's time for you to retire? You know, okay, here it is, now the party's over. I don't know. But it's not over for me, I'll tell you. But getting this made me start to think about my career and history, and trouble. And I realized how fortunate I have been. And it does seem strange to get an award for something that you love to do so much that you can't wait to get up every day and go and do it. But I was very fortunate that in 1956, the GI Bill made it possible for me to go to the Neighborhood Playhouse School of Theater, which at that time was considered by many to be the finest acting school in America. I was very fortunate to study there with people like Martha Graham and Louis Horst, who taught choreography at Juilliard, and it was said of him that he was the wall against which Martha Graham grew as an artist. Robert Neff Williams, who became a mainstay of voice and speech faculty at Juilliard. Alvin Epstein, who many of you know is an actor at ART, was also a wonderful mime. He taught me mime. In fact, I think I'm his oldest living mime student. Philip Burton, who was Richard Burton's adopted father, who awakened my passion for Shakespeare. And most important, with Sanford Meisner, the great Sandy Meisner, with whom I went on to enjoy a 15-year close relationship as a teacher and a director. I was fortunate indeed that I had the opportunity to create 2 complete curriculum and hire the faculty for 2 different schools. At Rutgers University, Mason Gross School of the Arts, I had a dean and a president of the university who understood what I was trying to do and supported me in every possible way. And we made there a wonderful school. And now in my own studio in New York City, which I started in 1963 to supplement what I was doing in the other places. I started that studio with 4 students in 1963. 2 of them were paying, and the other 2 were friends of mine who were coming, trying to help me out, make it seem a little more like a class that I had more than 2 people there. Today, we have 21 faculty members there, and students from 14 different countries around the world who come to New York to study. And then, of course, there are those moments, those incandescent moments in the classroom when the actor's imagination so takes possession of his senses that he suddenly transforms into a living, breathing character and creates a fiction that is, as Ernest Hemingway said, is truer than anything in real life. But as you all know who teach, teaching is not all incandescent moments. There's a lot of headaches that go with those moments. I recall a day in the spring this year when I arrived at my office at my studio, and I received a message from a young man who I had interviewed the week before. He was 20 years old, he was very handsome, but he had never in his life ever acted anywhere. Not in elementary school, high school, nowhere, never acted. But there was something about him that I liked, and so I placed him in a class. Well, he called that day to tell me that he couldn't take the class. He was very sorry. But his agents had told him that he wasn't going to have time to take an acting class. He'd be too busy auditioning. Right after that, another former student came by to tell me, to share the news with me that he'd been offered a wonderful part at one of the non-profit theaters in New York. But unfortunately, he didn't know what to do because if he took the part, they would pay him less than he was now making on unemployment. And then I finished the day by reading the riot act to a student who'd missed 3 appointments with his acting partner. And on days like this, the thought does occur to you. It does enter your mind. Why do I keep doing this? Why don't I cash it in, go to Florida and play golf? And then it comes to my mind a wonderful man that you may know, never have heard of. His name was David Itkin. And David Itkin was with the Moscow Art Theater for 17 years with Stanislavski. He came to this country with his family, and he taught at the Goodman Theater School for many years. He taught people like Geraldine Page, Jose Quintero. He was a wonderful teacher. And I had the pleasure once of hearing him give a talk about the difficulties of going to the theater. And you have to forgive my Russian accent, it's not so hot, but I'm going to do the best I can. But he would say, well, why should I go to the theater? It's very difficult. is very expensive. It costs a lot of money. The tickets, they cost much money. Then you have to get off work. I run home, run to babysitter house, get babysitter, bring babysitter to my house. Then get back in car, drive to the theater. Go to the theater. Get out, it's late. We haven't eaten. Now we gotta eat. We have to eat out. It's costing more money. Then get car from garage, costs more money. Then go home, get babysitter, pay babysitter, that's more money. Then drive babysitter home. Then drive back to home, go to sleep. Get up the next day, I am exhausted. I am so tired. It was up so late. Then why should I go to the theater? Because when I go to the theater and I sit there in the dark and I am looking, and I am like looking through a keyhole, and I am like peeking through the keyhole, and I am seeing people there. They live their lives, and I watch them live their lives there, and it excites me. Thank you very much.
When we learned last January the passing of Ellen Stewart, the awards committee began the process of renaming one of our awards. In that process, we wound up setting guidelines for ATHE to follow with future deliberations. You can find those guidelines on our website. In honor of Ellen Stewart's profound legacy to the profession and the Academy, ATHE hereby renames its award the Ellen Stewart Career Achievement Award in Professional Theater. We are thrilled that Ozzy Rodriguez, the Director of Archives at Cafe La Mama and longtime friend and associate of Ellen Stewart, is here to accept this honor on her behalf.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to La Mama, experimental theater dedicated to the playwright and all aspects of the theater. With that announcement, Ellen would ring a bell and everybody would come to attention. She did that for over 50 years, almost 50 years, at each performance. The very deceptive, all aspects of theater was something that was extraordinarily subversive. Because what it meant to Ellen and what it meant to the future of the American theater as well as international theater was that the face of theater was changing. In a time in 1961 when some of the most relevant issues concerned the Vietnam War, civil liberties, the rise of feminism, the gay liberation movement, rock and roll, sex, free love, all of these things were coming together, but there were no commercial places where this could be presented, where this could be explored. I'm going to quote a little bit of something that Tom O'Horgan said, who was our first artistic director. O'Horgan, if you remember, was the director of Hair, Jesus Christ Superstar, Lenny, Inner City, many other performances. What she was doing was trying to give new playwrights an opportunity to do their work. It wasn't anything like that. It was an extraordinary moment when everybody who was kind of lost found a place. People like Ellen created that home for us. She had an uncanny talent for putting people together and how she chose her plays was pure magic. The uncanny putting together of people resulted in things like Philip Glass meeting Robert Wilson, Richard Foreman coming to Mama, Sam Shepard working with Tom O'Horrigan, Terrence McNally, Israel Horovitz, to name a few, Bette Midler, Diane Lane, who started at age 7, Andre Serban, who is now the head of the drama department of Columbia, many, many, many thousands more. We've done over 3,400 productions at La Mama, many, almost 98% of them original. The doors that she opened will forever remain open. This is not to say that this is the only legacy that Ellen leaves behind. She also invited from all parts of the world an international array of wonderful new creative people, including Jerzy Grotowski, Tadeusz Kantor, Suji Teriyama, many, 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 many thousands more who came from every part of the world to participate, not only to participate in the American theater, but to educate our American artists in new ways of experimentation. This is the most invaluable legacy you could leave. I want to say one more thing. This is Tom O'Horrigan's quote. "Theater is simply an appointment in time. You should come away with verbal memory, visual images etched on the back of your retina, evoking that magic deep within you." I think Ellen would be very proud of the fact that an American award bearing her name is to be bestowed on a kindred spirit whose legacy parallels and expands her own. Thank you so very much.
The first recipient of the Ellen Stewart Career Achievement Award in Professional Theater goes to Dennis Zaciak.
Thank you very much, very kind of you. I'm sure that one of the reasons that I have received this award has to do with the fact that I was artistic director of Victory Gardens Theater for the past 34 years. Thank you. I am now artistic director emeritus, but like a number of my colleagues, I hope that I have miles to go before I sleep. During that period of time, as artistic director, I performed many tasks. I was a director, I was an actor, I was a designer, I was a dramaturg, I was a producer, and of course I was artistic director. But to my surprise, a number of years ago, my associate artistic director, Sandy Shinner, was once asked what she thought my greatest contribution was. And she said that she thought it was that of a teacher. And if this is indeed true, it is an enormous compliment. I take some pleasure in noting that Zaciak, as some of you may know, is a Slovak name, and it means little student. And of course, I think that all great teachers continue to remain little students as they go on through their careers. Many of you may know that Chicago is now considered to be one of the theater capitals in the world. Victory Gardens started in 1974. That was the beginning of the Chicago theater movement. But what you may not realize is that there is also a tradition of artist-teacher that has occurred throughout the years. Certainly, my friends Sheldon Patinkin from Columbia College and Frank Galati from Northwestern University would be contemporaries who share this particular task of artist, teacher. And we're not sure who the father of Chicago theater is, but there are a number of candidates for mother. Certainly Alvina Krauss, the great acting teacher from Northwestern University, the late great Joyce Sloan from Second City, Bella Itkin, the daughter of David Itkin, Viola Spolin, mother of Paul Sills, and author of Theater Games and Improvisation for the Theater. But for my money, the mother of them all, as far as Chicago theater is concerned, is Jane Addams. As you recall, she was the creator of the Hull House Theater, the first woman to receive the Nobel Prize, and someone who created a theater of entry for the immigrant, some way in which the other could find a way to become part of the city of Chicago and part of our great country. And in many ways, Victory Gardens has emulated that philosophy by striving to be a theater of inclusion, a theater that represents as many of the people of the city of Chicago as possible. In addition to this, we have been recognized, as some of you know, by the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Variety, and the Tony Awards Committee as one of the most important playwright theaters in the country. And we base our philosophy on 3 E's. The first E, of course, is entertainment. And by that, I don't mean just a laugh riot. I mean something that holds your attention for 2 hours traffic on the stage. The second E is some form of enlightenment in which you come away with something that you didn't have before you went to the theater. And the last, of course, which is very hard to achieve, but the last E is a moment of ecstasy. Even if it's something as fundamental as a recognition that we are all alive and that life is very fragile and that we should celebrate every moment of it while we can. As I wind up my remarks, I would like to just add one more E, which is educare, the root of the word education. And as the great Italian psychiatrist Roberto Assagioli tells us, educare means to lead forth the innate wholeness of the individual. To lead forth the innate wholeness of the individual. So that as artists and as teachers, we do what we can to help complete the individual, to help heal the individual, to help perfect the individual, so that he or she can make a greater contribution to the society in which they live. In conclusion, I would like to thank my wife, the incomparable Marcelle McVeigh, for her ongoing support. She's here in this audience this evening. And of course, I would like to thank all of you for giving me this particular honor. Thank you so much.